Hi, this is Two Angels Mushroom Farm, and most of the time we're giving you videos about mushrooms, but it's January, not a lot going on. Of course, our grow room is looking good, and we probably need to do a video on that, but today we have something new we're doing. It is January, as I said, so trees are dormant, and this is the perfect time for us to work on our fig trees. So the best way to propagate a fig is not from seed, but from a cutting. And so this is the time to prune your figs, and then figs actually root quite easily. Figs are propagated by cuttings by most commercial nursery and not grown from seed because the seed will be a whole new variety and it won't be true to the parents. So we propagate by cuttings. Now right here I have taken a cutting of my LSU Gold, and you'll notice that I have written on it with a paint marker because I have multiple varieties. We've got 7 different varieties of figs, and about to add some more, much to my husband's chagrin. I love figs. So we're going to make sure that we write on every single cutting so that we don't mix them up. It's really important to keep those varieties correct and not get that mixed up, and that could happen. So we're writing on it. Yes, you can put a tag. Yes, you could write on the container, but tags fall off, they fade. Containers as well can be repotted, and it's just easy to lose that sort of stuff. So each one I'm writing on it, and I am going to put a tag on it later, but for now, just to keep things straight, I've written on it with a paint marker. So this is my cutting, and it's tender and soft, and you can see that the tip here is still got green to it, and so we know that this is it feels healthy and alive, and it's bending and not breaking, so we know that it's in good shape. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. A lot of people will use a cup. Nothing wrong with planting in a cup, but I'm going to use a plastic bag. This is what I have on hand. This is what works for me because I already have this. So this is a 4-inch poly tubing, which I have sealed the end, and we happen to have an impulse sealer. Now you may not have an impulse sealer, but you could use a different type of plastic bag. So if you wanted to do a plastic bag, you know, as you're going through the year, things arrive in shipping, and you might find a tubular shaped bag. Hold that back and use it next January for your figs. So I've got this sealed on the sealed bottom. You can also order, let me tell you, you can also order bags that are 4x16 from uline.com, and that'd be a really good source if you have multiple figs like we do. We just happen to already have polytubing on hand for our dried mushrooms. So I'm using what I have. You can use what you have. Just look around and think about it. So I'm going to just kind of clip the corner on each corner of this bag to make a little drain hole. So this is the bottom of the bag. Figs will be sitting in it here, and it will have a drain hole like this one has been cut so that if there's too much moisture in this bag, it'll have a place to drain. We don't want the figs sitting in too much moisture because that could cause root rot, and we could lose the cutting and it may not prosper that way. So this will allow a place to drain if the soil is too moist. So let's talk about the soil. I have here I'm using Dr. Earth. It's a premium organic garden soil. We like this brand because it is, first of all, it is organic, but it also includes beneficial soil microbes and mycorrhizal fungi. For us, that's very important. This is a mushroom farm, and we are all about fungus. We understand the value of partnering plants with natural mycorrhizal fungi in the soil. Up to 90% of trees, maybe more, in this earth usually have a fungal partner, a mycorrhizal fungi partner. So we want to get our cuttings started out with that. There's a beneficial relationship between the fungi and the host plant or tree, and it's a symbiotic relationship. It's not a parasitic one, but the fungi will share moisture that it takes in from the ground. It will share the different organic compounds that it has broken down and digested. He will share that with the tree, and in turn the tree will share the byproducts of photosynthesis like the carbon and sugars. So they're helping each other. It's a helping relationship that benefits the tree and the fungi. So adding mycorrhizal fungi into your soil is really, really a great thing to do for your plants. Now, this is a tube. It's going to be really hard for me to get the soil down in there. So what I'm going to do, oh, I forgot a step. I almost messed up. I'm glad I caught that. I have my cutting, and I'm going to want it to be probably right about here. I don't want the tip all the way down at the very bottom of the bag, because this is where the most moisture is going to be, and I don't want to take a chance on root rot. I want it up a little bit, and I want the top to cover the leaves just to try to keep some humidity in this infancy stage. So I'm going to mark my soil level. I've got a leaf node here and another leaf node here. So I want to get at least 2 leaf nodes below the top of the soil, and I want the end of it here, so that means I'm going to want to fill my soil about right there. So just for ease visually, I go ahead and mark that. And I put a little mark on my tree too, but probably really didn't need to do that, but I thought I'd do it while I was at it, so it makes it a little easier when you're a little further down the line here. So now that I've got my soil level marked on the bag, I've got a cup that I'm using as a funnel just because this was handy. I wish I had a little bit bigger cup, like a solo cup or something, but this makes it a little bit easier for me to get the soil into the bag. So I'm just going to fill this bag up with this wonderful soil, and let me show you, this is important. The moisture level of the soil is critical. This soil is already wet to what's called field capacity. So like if I take the soil and I squeeze it really hard, I might get maybe a drop out, maybe. So that means it's wet. If I squeeze this and water was running down, it's too wet. But when I open my hand, it pretty much stays in one shape and it doesn't just fall apart. If it fell apart when I open my hand, it'd be too dry. So this is just the right amount of moisture level in your soil. So you need to pay attention to that before you get too far down the road. You may have to water your soil or let it dry out a little bit before you can use it. You want the right moisture level, and that's really crucial that it be at field capacity. So that was just perfect. It's coming straight out of the bag this way, and most of the time your bagged potting soils are probably going to be just about right. So we like to grow organic, and we use this brand of Dr. Earth, but you know, really you could use whatever brand you want, or even, you know, mix your own potting soil. A lot of people do that, you know, and that's a good money saver. But I do recommend that you add some mycorrhizal fungi in your mix if you're mixing it yourself. You can usually buy that in like a powdered form. Mix it in with the water before you water the soil mix that you're making. Okay, this is a little tricky to get it in here when it's wet like this. It wants to clump. Okay, so let me just kind of tamp this down, see how much we've got in here. Make sure that soil's getting all the way down into the corners. Pack it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I still need a little bit more. We're almost there. Okay. This is kind of slow going because I'm using such a small bag, but you really could use a little bit different size. This is just what we have on hand, you know. Totally up to you how you want to do it. A lot of people do this in a cup instead of doing a bag. I like the bag method because it keeps the moisture a little bit more consistent by closing the top, as you're going to see here in a minute. Okay, I think we've about got that to the line. That looks pretty good there. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side, and now I'm going to change gears here a little bit. I've got to prepare the cutting to go into the bag. Now, I cut this, if you want to look, I cut this just below a node. That's because the node area is where this tree would leaf out. It's also where it's going to put out roots. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of scrape it with my sharp knife. I'm using a paring knife from my kitchen, but if you have just a nice sharp blade, I'm scraping it. See how it's getting down to that green area right there, the Cambria layer? That's the area where the roots are going to emerge from. So we're giving it a little bit more surface area for the roots to produce rather than just at the tip of the cutting. So here I have some rooting hormone, and this one is by Fertilome. Let's see how this is really a lot. This is 2 ounces, and it was $4.99. It's very inexpensive. This will probably last me for a really long time. So I got this at Ottawa Nursery and Garden Center in Ottawa. So this was the smallest one they had, but usually you can get like a small little packet and not have to use so much. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it all the way down into the rooting hormone, which you can't see. Let me change hands. I'm ambidextrous, I can do that. So I'm going to dip it down in there and get that cut there covered. And I want to tap it to get the excess off, because anything extra is just being wasted. So there, we've got a nice light dusting. That is all you need. Okay, see where we cut it at? It's looking pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and close this back up so we don't get any moisture from humidity in there. Now, it's simply as easy as inserting your cutting. And remember, we've got a line here. We want to get at least 2 nodes below the surface. So I'm going to go past the second node about halfway up. And we're just going to put it down into the soil. There we go. All the way. Just a little bit more. Okay. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do, well, I've got a rubber band. I'm going to gather this tightly right where the soil meets the stem, and I'm going to put that rubber band around a couple of times to close it up. Let's go one more. Okay, now I'm going to twist it, go around the bottom. Just hold everything nice and secure. There we go. Now, so there is my LSU Gold cutting. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to put this into like a plastic tote bin. I'm going to put all of my cuttings in here. You see here's some of my Celeste that I just finished a few minutes ago. And I expect in anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks I should start seeing some leaf growth out the top. So fingers crossed on that. And hopefully we will have lots of little fig cuttings to share and sell here in just a little bit. So thank you for watching. We ask that you would subscribe to our page and be sure and visit our website, twoangelsmushrooms.com. Happy mushrooms, and we wish you many figs. Bye-bye.